Welcome everyone. We'll be starting in just a minute. We'll be presenting on assistive technology for trauma. We are recording and we are live streaming to Facebook. If you're joining us on Facebook, you may want to click on the event and join us on Zoom so they can get the full experience with captioning and the ability to ask questions in chat.
Is there anyone else in the waiting room?
There's some joining stuff.
Okay.
We'll be starting in just 1 minute. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
I have a couple more people joining, so we'll be starting in just 1 minute. Seems like Zoom is really slow right now. The joining process is taking some time for folks.
Yeah, like my screen still says 2 people entered, and
I have hit admit all of it saying joining for quite a while. So. Oh, down to 1.
Okay.
As soon as this final person can get joined up, then we will get started.
All right.
Oh. They've tried joining a couple times, so maybe we should get going and I'll keep trying to add them.
All righty, well, welcome everyone. We are with Michigan Disability Rights Coalition and the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. And today our Tech Tuesday is going to be about assistive technology for trauma. Usually our Tech Tuesdays are about an hour long during the lunch hour. This one will go a little bit over, about an hour and a half. If you do have to leave at 1 o'clock, we will have this recording available on our YouTube and also on Facebook. We are streaming live, so this will be available to replay back as well. And then we also send out a link to the recording as well to participants. So that will be available to you.
Did want to let you know though, you do have to stay for the entire live training to get the continuing education credits.
Yes. And my name is Ajane Thomas. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am our youth assistive technology specialist. On the screen is an image of myself and my 2 children, and I myself am a survivor of trauma, and I identify as a woman with a disability. My email is athomas@mymdrc.org.
And my name is Amy Stirk. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am one of the program directors at MDRC and identify also as a survivor of trauma and a woman with disabilities. On the screen is a picture of me with my kiddos, and my email address is Amy, spelled AIMEE, @mymdrc.org.
We do have a resource guide available that Sarah, who is our chat moderator today, she will be putting information in the chat as we go along, and then she will also be monitoring the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat.
Hello.
Sarah, thanks for filling in today. Thanks for chatting.
I'll do my best. You're welcome.
All right, and the word about the continuing education credits. Right now we have continuing education credits for rehab counselors for this presentation. And in order to receive the credit, you must participate in and join the live Zoom webinar. So if you are on the Facebook live streaming, please look in the comments and join via the Zoom link. And you must answer the survey questions at the end and join live to be getting continuing education for rehab counselors. Next slide, please.
So our mission at Michigan Disability Rights Coalition is that we cultivate disability pride and strengthens the disability movement by recognizing disability as a natural and beautiful part of human diversity while collaborating to dismantle all forms of oppression. The image on the screen is an image of our logo with stacked wording, Michigan Disability Rights Coalition. Today, what we'll cover, we will go over an overview of our program, the Michigan Assistive Technology Program. We're going to discuss trauma and the various impacts of trauma on the body, the intersections of disability and trauma. We'll go over what is disability pride, supporting someone who has experienced trauma, and then we'll also go over a lot of assistive technology for trauma. So different devices, techniques, things that are available to assist in helping someone cope and add things to their toolkit. So those devices and the categories will include AT for self-regulation, sensory, health and safety, daily living, and also we'll go over AT that can be used in IEP, so in the classroom and for education. And we'll also talk about how a lot of these devices can be used for youth and for adults. And then we'll go over some resources that are out there. On the image on this screen is an image of a light bulb, and there's like an agenda checklist. It has 3 check boxes and lines showing like a to-do list.
Wanted to give a brief overview of the Michigan Assistive Technology Program for some of you that might be new to learning about us. We are a statewide program and our services are federally funded. We provide our services free of charge, and we provide access to information and services in Michigan. So AT information referral, you can contact us by email or phone. Or look on our website to get more information about assistive technology. In general, Sarah is the person that answers those calls and those emails. So you would be getting in touch with her if you're looking for information on assistive technology in general. We are by and for people with disabilities. That means that our AT specialists, we are all people with disabilities. And we're working in the disability community and sharing what we know and learning from each other. And we provide demonstrations of assistive technology devices. So that means we have a library of over 1,000 devices that we can bring to you in the community, your home, or meet you in the community. You can try out and see if they work for you. We also provide short-term loans of those devices, and we provide trainings like this training that we're doing today. And the image on the slide today for this slide is the MATP logo, which is the light bulb with a little bit of a green growth in the inside. Did want to let you know that we welcome questions throughout our presentation today. So please, if you have a question, type it in the chat or unmute and ask your question aloud. We'll also have some time at the end, but we really love having the questions like as it's related to the topic that we're talking about right then. So please do send your questions our way or unmute and speak them out loud.
And we do want to take a moment to recognize and let you all know that we do want you to take care of yourself during this presentation because survivors of trauma may be triggered by talking about trauma supports. We, again, are trauma survivors ourselves. You may be a trauma survivor supporting a trauma survivor, so others' experiences impact us and may bring up our own symptoms. Take the time to acknowledge your feelings and also take the time to process and step away after the presentation. And the image on this slide is of a person with long hair. They have a watering can and they are pouring the water on themselves, and they are surrounded by a lot of plants.
Amy, did you mean to put that message in the chat to everybody?
No, I meant it to be direct message.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. All right. So what is trauma? Trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, shocking, scary, or dangerous experience that affects someone, and it impacts the brain and the way it operates. The image in the slide is a brain word cloud with trauma and trauma-related terms like PTSD, kids, abuse, victim, fear, flashbacks, and emotional distance in the word cloud. What is disability? We at MDRC are a cross-disability organization. We support people with apparent and non-apparent disabilities. And disability is more than the mental and physical effects on the body. It is both how society interacts with us as individuals with disabilities and how we as individuals with disabilities interact with society and how we think about interact with ourselves. And we believe that disability is beautiful and natural. And the image in the slide is of a woman with an apparent disability painting with a paintbrush, and she is using her foot to paint. Wanted to talk some both ands about trauma and disabilities. People with disabilities could have a disability before they experience a trauma. People with disabilities can experience a trauma and then acquire a disability. People can not have a disability and then because of trauma acquire the disability. And you can already have a disability and experience trauma and then have another disability because of the trauma. And the words on the slide are both and in circles that are overlapping. Some more both ands. Individuals can acquire disability from trauma, and what happened to them can be wrong. And individuals can live with that disability and not be broken. A disability caused by trauma is a normal response of the body to a traumatic event. The disability itself is one that an individual can have and live with pride, and both can be true. And again, there's a both and circle interacting on the slide. Wanted to give some background on trauma and disability and statistics. People with disabilities face almost double the rate of childhood trauma as the general population. And trauma is intersectional, meaning that people with low income, with different educational attainment, people of color, people who identify as LGBTQ+, they have a significantly higher chance of having experienced adversity or trauma in childhood. Supports and tools can build resilience and healing, and people can both be recovering and acknowledge and live with a trauma history. And childhood trauma can be a cause of disability. The image here is the 3 types of ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, which include abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction, with pictures representing the categories, including physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical and emotional neglect. And then the household dysfunctions are mental illness, incarcerated relative, mother treated violently, substance use, and divorce. If a child already has a disability before experiencing trauma, they are more likely to be maltreated than their non-disabled peers and more likely to be survivors of neglect than their non-disabled peers. If we think about statistics of trauma, then almost 100% of people who have experienced trauma have a disability. And the research on this is hard when a mental health diagnosis or other disability diagnosis doesn't happen until teens or adulthoods for people who experience trauma at younger ages. And there's a repeat of the image on the slide of the abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction ACEs. Along with a disability identity can be a disability pride identity. And disability pride is accepting and honoring our uniqueness and seeing it as a natural and beautiful part of human diversity. Pride comes from celebrating our heritage, culture, and unique experiences and contributions. So it's not just accepting your disability, it's honoring it and seeing it as a beautiful part of who you are. When you practice and are able to gain disability pride, you gain self-esteem, self-acceptance. You are part of a system and a community, a support system with a sense of belonging. Acting upon pride means asking for and getting accommodations that you need. It's a life of honesty, it's appreciation for diversity, and it's also acting on the value of interdependence, which is something the disability community can offer the rest of the world, knowing and believing that we are all here supporting each other and no one is completely independent. We do whole trainings on what disability pride is and how people can develop disability pride. So I encourage you to take a look at our offerings when we offer those. Today, we're really focusing on assistive technology available for trauma, but we'd be happy to do a training for disability pride for your organization or groups that you're a part of. The pictures in this slide are of people with disabilities from the Ablers Club of Saginaw Valley, and the top one participating in the Disability Pride Parade in Chicago. And people with disabilities climbing the Capitol steps. So the thing about disability pride is, any identity pride, is that it takes practice, and you have to work to fight internalized ableism, which is thinking of yourself as less than because of your disability. And using AT and asking for accommodations does acknowledge your disability. So when you're practicing pride and acknowledging your disability, then you're probably using AT and asking for accommodations. Disability pride can reject shame. And like I said, internalized ableism is when a person with a disability turns ableism inward or thinks negatively about themselves related to their disability. And ableism is the belief that people with disabilities are less valuable. The picture here is of a man who is using a wheelchair, holding hands with a man or person that is standing in front of him, and then a group of people on a boardwalk, one of whom is using a wheelchair. There is quite a bit of research that is actually more recent into trauma and the impact on health, especially with ACEs. There's also research on what helps and what can you do as someone who has experienced trauma or supporting someone who has experienced trauma. And so there are ways that you can build resilience, and that can be by experiencing pleasurable arousal not associated with fear. So for instance, learning that your fast heartbeat can be from playing hard, not from being afraid or running from a traumatic thing. Other ways to support someone who has experienced trauma are to find a trauma-trained therapist and find ways to build safe connections. They found for children who have experienced trauma, the more safe adults they have in their life following trauma, the more resilience they build. And AJ is going to talk some more too about ways for your body to release trauma, especially some sensory related AT. It's also important to acknowledge triggers that remind our bodies of trauma. So paying attention when people are saying, this is hard for me, that is possible that something is triggering, and reminding them of trauma. And then finding ways of grounding. So getting out of fight or flight and getting the nervous system to rebalance and reorganize after being overwhelmed by trauma. And that can be through therapies like EMDR or using grounding techniques like in the PTSD app. And there's more information about that in an app called PTSD Family Coach.
And Kimberly says, I am still experiencing trauma and having a hard time getting away from it, and I'm an adult.
I'm sorry you're experiencing that, Kimberly. I hope that we have some ideas here that are helpful for you. Ajane and I will be sharing some things that have worked for us. I am sorry that you've experienced that. The picture on the slide is of a little girl holding her knees and crouching with a teddy bear next to her. And the teddy bear looks like it has a tear on its face. And in the shadow behind the little girl is a picture of it looks like an adult hand holding an umbrella over her head.
We just want to take a moment. We just had a lot of information. We had ourselves disclosed about us being trauma survivors. Someone in the chat has disclosed that they are a trauma survivor themselves. So just take a moment to look away, breathe, stretch if you need to. I will set a timer. Was there something in the chat? I'm sorry, before we take
Kimberly just said thank you to
Oh.
Amy's response.
I will set a timer for about 30 seconds to just look away from the screen and take a moment. Okay. Thanks everyone for taking the time. And on the screen is an image of is this a river? Amy,
It's
you added this one.
Tequamanen. Yep.
I was
That
gonna say,
is
what's
one
the
of
name
my
of it?
safe spaces. Yep. Yep.
Do you want to share the story behind it?
Yeah, so I did EMDR therapy to help with my trauma, and in that therapy you at the end, to kind of bring yourself back to regulated too, you think of and try to feel like what it is like to be in a safe space. So I used the Tequamanen Falls in the river area as my like recenter and safe space after each therapy session. So I would imagine that I was there. I tried to imagine what it felt like to feel the rocks under my feet and to smell the trees and hear the wind in the trees. For me, that is a safe place of comfort for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are going to go into what is assistive technology. Sarah, if you want to put the resource guide in the chat for those that may have joined late, they can follow along with the resource guide. There are links to the different devices that we're going to go over. And then if you have any questions throughout us going over these devices, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute to ask the question. So assistive technology to our program is any item, piece of equipment, software, or app that is used to help people with disabilities, including older adults, do whatever it is that they want to do, need to do, to make those activities more accessible to them, or to help with that interdependence, to be able to do things from daily living activities to even recreational and hobbies. And also a lot of the things that we go over today will be mental health apps, different software out there, and then just even techniques, as Amy just described, her safe space. So even having that in your toolkit per se to be able to use that as a coping skill, that is something that we consider our AT and things that we use. So technology can make things easier for everyone, and for people with disabilities, AT opens up possibilities. On the slide are different images of AT devices. So some of our low-tech devices include grips and handles. The images of a doorknob grip that assists someone that may not be able to grip a doorknob easily. They have different grips that are different shapes to help grip and turn a doorknob. Different pill organizers. There's so many different types of styles of pill organizers. There's kind of high-tech ones that get more in depth with having a lot of different organizers available. And then there's also some more low-tech things like the one on the screen that is a 7-day pill organizer. And Amy, if you want to talk about your AT.
Yeah, I actually have that same rack right here. And I'm holding it right now. This is a brain gym exercise that you can use to help for survivors of trauma. What it actually is just having a smooth, hard, kind of heavy object that you can pass back and forth from hand to hand, and it can that bilateral stimulation by using both sides of the body can help with calming.
And the image on the screen is Amy holding that rock.
Yeah, sorry. Yep.
That's okay. So assistive technology for trauma. So the devices that we go over are devices that are helping to support those affected by trauma, to expand their toolkit, also allows them to be better equipped to identify tools that may work for them in a variety of different situations. AT provides some of those tools that may benefit those affected by trauma to be prepared with the coping skills. The image on this slide is of a person using a laptop. They're in a chair, a power chair, and they have a lot of different AT connected to their power chair. So they're using AT that is a cell phone holder onto their chair. They have a device, a mouthpiece that helps them navigate the laptop, and they're also using a headpiece as well. So again, we do want to note that this presentation today will focus primarily on youth and mental health. However, we do recognize that trauma can also cause harm physically, and adults experience trauma. A lot of the AT that we highlight today can also be used for adults. And then we also provide trainings on different devices that are available for physical disabilities and other learning and developmental disabilities. So going into some AT for self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability to manage extreme emotions, positive or negative extremes, and sensations and thoughts. It includes being able to regulate your reactions to strong emotions like frustration, excitement, anger, embarrassment, and fear, your ability to calm down after something exciting or upsetting happens, your ability to focus on a task and have reminders in your memory to transition from a different task, to refocus your attention on a new task, and also to control impulses. On the screen is an image of the Disney movie Inside Out. It is the characters that are inside of the main character Riley's brain. So there's anger, disgust, joy or happiness, and fear and sadness, and they are controlling Riley's emotions. Some devices that are available for self-regulation, a technique and also AT are bubbles. So the sensation of taking a deep breath to blow out those bubbles. Also the play and arousal that comes with popping the bubbles. And then also there are different sensory socks, the compression of the sock to wrap around your body. Those can be used, and then also to kind of get those wiggles out. If someone is a sensory seeker, they sometimes, they still need that compression onto their body to be able to regulate those emotions. Other AT for self-regulation are different swings and chairs. So that back and forth rocking sensation is also something that can assist with calming down and being able to get back to calm back down into your emotions. And then there's also rocking horses. Those come in a lot of different styles and sizes. On the screen is an image of Annalise when she was younger using a rocking chair, a rocking horse. And then we also have an image of a sensory swing that is a compression sensory swing. So it kind of does similar to what the compression body sock does, where it wraps around, gives that compression sensation, and then also you're swinging. And then we have different hammock swings that are available in our inventory. These hammock swings are a little bit different because they fold up, so we can take them outside, you can use them indoors, and it's like a hammock chair. So again, that almost that cuddling sensation of a hug, like where you're wrapped in it and you can sit in the hammock and you can rock back and forth. Other things that can assist with self-regulation. So rhythms, again, the repetitive movement. So even using music instruments like drums and maracas, the vibrations and the shaking and squeezing stress balls, all of those different things can be helpful in those different moments where someone needs assistance with self-regulating emotions. And sometimes that's even not even a negative emotion, but even like if someone is super, super excited and again, looking for that sensory, shaking a maraca, being able to really like hammer down on the drums, like those are all AT devices and different techniques to assist with that self-regulation. And on the screen are different images of children using the maracas, using drum sets, and squeezing a stress ball. There are also different technology devices out there that can assist with self-regulation. So there are heart rate monitors. So there's different monitors out there that can basically alert you if your heart rate's going too high to help you realize that you need to self-regulate, bring your heart rate down. There are apps for calming and thinking that are available. There are different games. So on the screen, I do have images of the Mightier game, and that is specifically for self-regulation, and it teaches kids calming and self-regulation techniques. And there's also different apps that are available for journaling. So if writing and getting those emotions on paper, or even getting those emotions on a device or tablet, if they need help, assistance with writing, if they prefer typing, or there's also different apps that can give you prompts. So they will ask you questions so that if just journaling in itself may be boring, but they find it helpful if you're having a hard time even coming up with like, what should I write? Or if sometimes writing about experiences can be triggering, sometimes there are different diary apps out there that can prompt and like kind of ask questions that can assist with more so coping rather than talking about the traumas. I am going to stop sharing really quick.
And Kimberly says, the swings and chair sounds interesting as I tend to rock when upset. The heart rate monitor is something that sounds amazing and useful with my anxiety disorder that causes AFib.
And we also have, we're doing a lot of research on like how our smartwatches can assist with monitoring our heart rate, and even just kind of trying to find different apps that will assist you to like, ding if it's your heart rate's going up. So then, like, okay, I need to go into some of my coping techniques. When I am stressed, I grind and I clench my jaw, and it has caused me a lot of dental problems. And so even just like I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I need to notice that I'm doing this, and be able to like relax my body and know like, okay, I'm clenching. And so being aware of self and knowing, so how you're aware that you rock, knowing that, okay, I need to go take a break and go sit in my hammock chair for a second. I tap a lot. So I have we also have different devices that are the bouncy bands. So those actually connect to an office chair. So you can like, tap and rock, as you need to, and attach different devices to a chair as well. I'm going to pull up a video. Actually, first I'm going to show the So this is a website called Go Noodle, and this has a lot of different self-regulation videos, activities, things to assist with mood and mindfulness, and that self-regulation to in different ways. So we talked about gaming, helping, and then also learning new skills, and using different activities. So with children, it's all and also with ourselves. Like when I have an app that's like specifically, I have to meditate, I might not feel like really meditating, or I can't power down my brain enough to meditate. So me coloring is more helpful than me trying to be silent. Really, like it's like I have to be doing something, focusing on something else to help me regulate my emotions rather than trying to stay still and meditate. So
And
again,
I'm
this is all
sorry, Ajane, Kimberly says, I definitely need help with anxiety. I also have TMJ from anxiety. Biofeedback does not work for me. And Dawn says, chewing bubble gum helps me.
Yes, chewing sensory. We'll talk about that too. But this is a cool website to have just available to kind of browse through. There's so many different things on this website. And I'm going to stop sharing this, and I will go into a video.
Kimberly says, I have no teeth due to anxiety. I do listen to audiobooks 24/7 and play video games to block the world out.
Kimberly, what's Kimberly's last name?
Hawkshaw?
Okay, I think Kimberly, are you in connection with Abby, I believe, or Jaleesa? So we can talk about us going over some other AT devices with you for your trauma and stuff too.
She says, yes, I love them.
Okay. Okay, great. So
Happy
we'll
to
be in
keep
touch,
going.
Kimberly.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we can hear this. It's a little quiet in the beginning. Can you hear the sound?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is fun. How?
So the image on the screen is a boy playing a video game with
Here
something
we can
on
see
his
Dustin trying
arm.
to calm down to make the game easier.
And Kimberly says they will be here tomorrow. I believe that's Abby and Jaleesa.
Okay, great. Good. So the mightier clip that I just showed was of Destin. He's playing the game, and as he's playing the game, you can see on the screen that he's getting frustrated with the game. As he's getting frustrated, the heart rate monitor is picking up that his heart rate is getting escalated, and it's the game then prompts him to calm down. So it shows him different ways to calm down. So squeeze your stress ball, take deep breaths in and out. And if he does not do those coping skills, the game just gets harder and harder and harder. So he has to bring it back down. And that's where the lava goes on the screen. And once the lava disappears, that means that his heart rate has been brought back down. And now he can continue playing the game. So I have demonstrated this to a couple of different families, and like the feedback that I had one time was that they've tried to tell their son to calm down and take deep breaths, but they realized that he doesn't actually take a deep breath. It's just something that mom just says, but after they played the game, they were actually inhaling, exhaling, taking those deep breaths to bring their heart rate down.
How young of kids can use that app?
So far, 3-year-olds.
Aha.
Yeah, Journey played it when we first got it. She was 3. So I haven't tried any younger than that.
I'm just thinking for my kiddos. So
Yeah, there is a lot of reading in the beginning, but they talk through it. Like they read what it is. So that is kind of where Journey was like, what's happening?
it is interesting with trauma too, that some folks really find breathing exercises useful, and some folks find breathing exercises like triggering and harmful. So knowing that about yourself, or trying these things in a safe environment where you can stop if you need to. My kids have not experienced trauma, but they are autistic, and one of them breathing is really helpful for, and the other really gets ticked off about breathing exercises. So.
And
But maybe
again,
if it's not me directing it, it might help. So,
yeah, and again, the benefits of our program is just trying out and figuring out what works for you. The Mightier game is something that you have to like pay for a subscription. So trying that out first with us to see if your kids are even interested in it. That's like a great benefit of our program, to be able to try out different things before you make that purchase. Get back to slideshow.
And I'm sorry, Kimberly, Kelly will be there tomorrow as well. I knew that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimberly. All right, so going into sensory and self-regulation kind of go hand in hand. So anyone can experience sensory overload, but it is most common with people that have experienced trauma and have a post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. Autism or sensory processing and other neurodevelopmental disorders also are more common with sensory processing. So some symptoms of sensory overload can tend to be feeling anxiety and the inability to relax, irritable, throwing tantrums, feeling restless, and having like physical discomfort, urge to cover your ears and eyes, to block out the source of input, feeling a lot of stress, fear, or panic in situations, having those high levels of excitement or feeling wound up, and also that fight or flight that Amy talked about earlier, the desire to escape the situation that is triggering the sensory overload. On the screen is an image of a young girl that is squinching her eyes closed tightly and covering her ears. And I do want to just take a moment to talk about sensory avoiders and sensory seekers. So sensory seekers are undersensitive to sensory input, while sensory avoiders are oversensitive. So some may show a combination of these reactions. Identifying what may or may not prompt someone to have sensory overload can help find ways to help them cope. So just some kind of personalities of sensory avoiders, or things that you may think about or you may see with people that avoid sensory. They may be a little bit more timid, startled or frightened easily, picky about clothes and their food. So again, sensory avoiders, they tend to have that seeming like they're picky, but it's just, their sensory, finding things that work for them. So finding those sensory clothing, so if they are sensitive to a tag touching them, food. So on the screen is a tray that separates the food and then also gives them kind of like a prompt to keep going and eating. But again, sometimes just some people don't want their food touching each other. So that tray also separates all of their food. They may be sensitive to smells, touch, and sound. So being sensitive to touch is not always like someone touching you, but maybe they just don't like the texture of certain things that they touch. So we do have walkie-talkie sticks. So that is where someone will insert the chalk into the stick holder that's on the screen. And then the child that's playing with it, they don't have to touch the chalk at all. They just kind of hold and navigate the handle in the long bar of the walkie-talkie stick. But we have a couple of coworkers that are like, ugh, I don't want to touch chalk. So even just realizing like those triggers, just that sensitivity to smells, touch, and sound. And then also sensory avoiders, avoid crowds and social interactions.
And it's so interesting because some of these sensory avoidance things can be because of a neurodiversity or neurodivergence like autism, but also like for me, I'm a sensory avoider because of trauma. So you could have different causes of disability, but still need the same kinds of AT.
And Dawn says, that's what I was thinking too, Amy.
Thank you. And sensory seekers. So sometimes you may have a child who loves touch, loves to snuggle, can't get enough of being in everyone's space, personal space. So they have a hard time with personal space. They need to touch people or objects often. So even just sometimes we're like, oh, toddlers just need to touch everything. But sometimes that's them seeking that sensory. They don't realize their own strength sometimes. So they may hurt someone and not realize it. Or if they're hugging someone, they're squeezing too tight and don't realize. They have an unusual tolerance for pain. So sometimes you may find cuts and different things from them playing rough and loud, and they don't even realize that they have been injured. And then also sensory seekers enjoy jumping, hopping, bumping into things, crashing into things, or even people. And they also seek the oral stimulation, so chewing on clothes or chewing on gum, chewing or on other objects. So there's also a lot of AT that we'll discuss too that can help with sensory seekers. So again, that's that redirection, figuring out like, okay, these are different devices that can help because you need to be touching things. You need to have that touch at some point, and then, or if you need to play rough and loud. So using a trampoline indoors. There are smaller ones for them to jump and get those wiggles out. I also had a coworker say that when they went to the chiropractor, they noticed that the chiropractor had a trampoline indoors, but in the waiting area lobby for the children. So I'm like, that's perfect. But that is exactly what that is for. So someone who sensory seeker, they're having anxiety being at a doctor's office, they can go jump on the trampoline. We also have an image on the screen of tactile mats. So there are different puzzle mats that can be laid on the floor, but they have so many different tactile, so raised bumps, smooth, different shapes that kind of look like rocks, little swirls that kind of have a keyhole inside of them, just different things to kind of help with that sensory seeking of needing that tactile touch.
And Kimberly says, I identify with most of these symptoms, I believe she means. And the hard part is finding an even level between the two problems.
Yes.
Really, it's possible to have a mix, and it's
Mhm.
and again, it can be from neurodivergence or it can be from trauma experience. Yeah.
Some other simple things that can assist with the need for touch, having Play-Doh available or putty, things that you can stretch, manipulate. I know there are toys out there that you can string apart and pull apart, but just like putty, slime, different dough, those can also be helpful. There are different screen covers that you can add to an iPad or tablet where they are tactile and they can use that for their need for touch as well. We have companion pets in our inventory. Those companion pets, they are robotic pets. So we have cats and dogs. We even have jellyfish.
Mhm.
And fish. But for the cats and dogs, they interact with touch and sound. So they interact with your voice, and if you touch them, the cat will purr, will roll over, the dog will lay down and wag its tail. Their heads move side to side when they hear your voice. So robotic pets, a little bit more with companion than having a real pet. And then other fidget toys. So the fidget spinners are really popular, and they have turned those into all types of different fidget devices now. So we have fidget blocks, and those are a block that has different things that you can, like light switch, click on and off. There's little knobs on the other side. So just a block that has different things to play with and fidget with. Also for those, there's sensory seekers that like to have aromatherapy that can assist them with regulating those emotions, processing. So there's different scents that can assist with sleeping, boosting your mood. And then there's also sprays and mists, and using like diffusers and humidifiers for those that are sensitive to smells. So that can go kind of hand in hand too. And again, just knowing like your triggers. If sometimes there are certain smells that trigger me. Like I have a really well, after COVID, it's not as as potent anymore, but I used to be really, really sensitive to smells. And that was like a really big thing, that like I could smell something and it would take me right back to something that happened when I was a kid. So that was something for me, that smells really triggered some of my traumas.
And Kimberly says, these are all so amazing. We have 3 special needs granddaughters. I could use most of these with and help myself at the same time. And
Great.
Katie says, I agree, Kimberly, finding the balance is hard. I have autism. I find sometimes I want tactile by fidgeting, but may also want silence.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. There's also sensory for oral and taste. So I know we kind of talked about this already, like chewing gum can kind of help regulate emotions and help with calming. And then there's also some kids tend to bite their nails because they're anxious, or bite their clothing. My son, when he first started going to school, that was a big thing for him. He would bite his collar of his shirt every day. So it looked similar to the image that's on the screen. He would have holes in his clothing would be drenched. And so he was ruining a lot of shirts. And he had a great teacher. This was before I got this position. So I wasn't I really didn't understand a lot of like the sensory stuff yet. And then his teacher was like, I created him a chew toy so that he could chew on this instead of chewing on his shirt. And she was really great about it. She would clean it every evening and then have it ready for him the next day. And it helped. He would chew on that. So there's other device. I think the one that she made for him was just like circle silicone, like kind of chewy things. The image on the screen is of a young boy reading a book, and he has a chew toy in his mouth, and it's more of a longer, it looks like it's almost shaped like a gem. And then there's also an image of another child that's chewing their sleeve.
Kimberly says pencils, pens, and fingernails and straws also.
Yes.
My
My son didn't
kids
chew
have
pencils,
shoes that are shaped like animals, and they wear them on necklaces, and so it's like more socially acceptable to have kind of a cool necklace with a rubbery animal. They have a sloth and a koala.
Katie
Cool.
says, I was considering the chew toys. Does anyone have any negatives with them? I get worried about the germs.
Yeah, I think that's she was really big on like I clean it every night, I dump it in hot water and soap, and she cleaned it and then would hang it to dry for the next morning. Um
I put ours
she-
in the dishwasher.
Yep. And then she also would tell me that really she would offer it to him like when they were doing like silent reading and like noticing those different like when he needed to transition into something new, and that's when he would chew a lot, when he had to sit still and pay attention or something like that. But when they were like outside or doing like play group, he didn't really need it in those moments, so she would just then he would take it off. So yeah.
I think it's handy to have them on the necklaces too, because then you're not like setting them down on all the surfaces that
Right.
germs on all, like they're just staying with your own germs and washing. I stick it back in your shirt or something. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
since COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, Dawn says many of them can be washed or go through the dishwasher. Katie said that's good to know. And Dawn said they aren't the right texture for everyone, so trials of different textures is important. Pomegranate seeds and sunflower kernels were suggested for people who need more of a pop, but moderation can get tricky if needs are high.
Mhm.
I have heard sunflower seeds to use for
That my daughter would like that. She really likes super crunchy things, veggie straws and really
Mhm.
crunchy chips and yeah.
And Sarah says, please remember that we need to teach people how to use these items. So many times I see people hand a fidget or a chewy to someone and walk away, but the individual has no idea how or when to use them. And Kimberly says, I have seen adults chew on pacifiers, but that is not socially appropriate outside of the home. Someone like me needs soft items.
Yeah.
Katie said, that's a good point, Sarah.
Mhm. And I agree too with the fidgets. Like some people just kind of think like handing a kid a fidget toy is just kind of like, oh, you just use it to fidget. But even just being more mindful of it being used to like help you like ground and get back to like focusing. So in those instances of like when to use your fidget. So some teachers will just have a bin just filled with like different fidgets to grab. And so it's like you kind of have to have that conversation with your students. Like this is to help like with your focus. It's not to kind of focus onto the fidget itself. Does that make sense? So another sensory another AT for sensory for hearing sensory would be using noise canceling headphones. So again, for a sensory avoider, those headphones. So we were talking about kind of what's socially accepted. We have had people tell us that there are students in the classroom that don't want to use those headphones when they are having a sensory overload because they don't want people to know that they need these headphones, or they are afraid of how it looks because the headphones are bulkier. There are different headphones out there. There are the band shaped headphones that just look like a headband, they wrap around. And then there's also these headphones that are called loop earplugs. So they go into the earlobe, and then once they're inside of your ear, it's just a small circle that you can see on the outside. So it's not those heavier or over the head, larger, bulkier headphones. There are also headphones available for infants. So again, those wrap around the head to protect their soft spot on the top of their head. And they're kind of larger, like ear muffs as well. And then for sensory seekers, headphones are great for using music, calming sounds, and noises. If what's going on in their environment is a little bit too heavy, but they don't want to necessarily just muffle it or have it in complete silence, using music, calming sounds, or even other like apps like podcasts going, someone talking are also great for any type of hearing processing.
Kimberly says, I make miniatures and do a lot of arts and crafts and often wear earbuds with an audiobook playing. It is tough when you have multiple sensitivities. Katie says, I agree.
Yeah.
It is. And also sight. So sometimes just sunlight can be, you can be very sensitive to different sunlight or the screens, the lighting in the screen being too bright. So wearing sunglasses is helpful in the car. Or when you're out and about, and then various lamps or light bulbs that have different settings. So when I'm working, I have to have a lamp that I can like dim the lights, or else I will start like getting a headache. And so just different, being aware of like different light settings as well. So lamps, and then also being mindful to like step away from the computer screen or screens after it's been a while. Also, if someone tends to not be able to focus when they're reading, if they jump a page or jump on different lines, there are also reading guides. They are like a tab that kind of highlights a section of where you're reading, and that helps people to be able to focus on that one line and not jump around on the page.
Katie says, I usually use a pen when reading.
Pen can help. Anything that can assist you with the guiding and remembering where you are on the page, that's great. So there's also so many different assistive technology for daily living. We talked about that we do have more devices out there that's available in our inventory as well for physical disabilities. But other daily activities that can be affected by trauma include your health, mental health, memory, your sleeping, your eating appetite, your concentration and focus, your mood. And again, so that social isolation and withdrawal, and then your performance at school or work. On the screen is an image of two people in the kitchen cooking.
Katie says that guide does look really helpful. And Kimberly says, I agree with everything with the daily activities.
So some devices that are available for memory, using your smart devices, so your phone, your tablets, if you have a smart watch. We are in the day and age of a lot of technology that can assist you with day-to-day activities, your routines, sending you reminders. So our program, again, we can assist you with being able to make your cell phone or tablet or even your watch more accessible for you. And also we can walk you through how to make how to use those devices to help you with your memory and getting those schedules and routines set up. So on the screen are images of the Google smart speaker. And so it says, hi, how can I help? So you can ask Google to set reminders. You can tell Google to add something to your shopping list. You can say, hey, Siri. So on your Apple smart devices, you can say, Siri, remind me that I have dinner with mom on Saturday at 10. And then those reminders will all be available on your smart speakers. So like Alexa devices, Echo devices, Google speakers, the smart speaker Bixby, and even, what am I missing? As far as smart speakers, I think that's it. Alexa, Google, Siri, Bixby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katie said I have to leave, but really appreciate this presentation, hoping to watch the recording.
Thanks, Katie. Have a great day.
Kimberly said, I tend to forget to take my meds and appointments. I wish I had things like this.
And this is just another screen showing that there are different ways to set up reminders and things for your Google Home and Alexa devices and smart speakers. And then also using a pen friend, that is something that we have available too. So it's a recording device, so it records labels, and that's also very helpful for memory.
Javon also said, I have to leave. Great presentation. Thank you for this. Very informative and helpful.
Thank you. Yes, please tune into the recording. I know this time we had to go over, so I'm sorry about that. So some AT for structure and routine. So there are different schedules, apps for scheduling. There's different timers, clocks, routine systems, and also different checklists. On the screen is a bedtime routine system by Fisher Price, and pretty much the parent or you can use an app and set up different routines and schedules, and then it will appear on the cloud. And as they complete those routines and schedules, your child or the person that's using it will press a button and it will ding and say routine complete. And so the different routines can be cleaning up, washing your hair, brushing your teeth, eating. So it's just something to get into that bedtime routine, and helpful also to give like that prompt of, way to go, and those kind of rewards for finishing your routine. We also have we've done different research on what is available for day and nighttime incontinence, and we can help with supports to walk you through different ways and different techniques that we can possibly explore when you have someone that is dealing with day and nighttime incontinence. So there's different clothing out there, so more absorbable underwear. There are bed pads, and also we can talk about different ways to make your bathroom more accessible, or even ways to, we have discussed maybe having a bedside commode if it's that they're not getting to the bathroom in a timely manner to go. And so just different things that we can talk to a specialist in our program to go over what's available. There are different reminder watches available as well. So potty watches, but then there's also different reminder watches that can be used at school during the daytime for older children that kind of have the same style as like a smartwatch. So it doesn't have the potty watch kind of style on there where it's flashing lights and singing songs like for toddlers. So there's different watches that are available that just kind of do like a vibrate to remind them to use the bathroom. And then there's also alarms and sensors that are available throughout the night for any nighttime incontinence. There's so many different AT devices for sleeping. So there are sleep sacks for infants, using body pillows for that weighted, for that sense of companionship, or sense of someone like, laying next to you or needing that touch. And then there's also pillow mists and sprays. So if someone wasn't sensitive to different sprays and mists, there's also different sprays that you can spray on a pillow, kind of like aromatherapy where it can assist with sleeping. And then using the weighted blankets and weighted stuffed animals as well. Other devices for sleeping, there are sleep bars. So this is a speaker that is flat, and it's like a long rectangle, and it can fit under your pillow, and it can play pretty much anything that you can stream from an app. So the Calm app, Spotify, podcasts, Apple Music, you can connect this by Bluetooth, and it just goes under your pillow. And you can use that while sleeping. And then they also, their company is called Dusker. They also have an eye mask available now that you can put over your eyes. It wraps around your head, and it will also connect to Bluetooth on your phone, and you can play music or podcasts or other calming sounds.
Tanisha said, thank you for such a wonderful presentation. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Kimberly says, OMG, these are amazing. I would love to try these out.
Great. Reach out to us and we'll come out and demonstrate them. Other night lights and nightlight projectors, using bedtime routines. These are all in the resource guide as well, for different night lights that are available.
Dawn says my Bluetooth eye/ear masks are amazing, especially in hotels trying to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. I cannot fall asleep. If I'm in the hotel by myself, I can't, I can't fall asleep. So also just different devices that are available for safety. So again, the wanting to escape, that fight or flight response. The flight trauma response involves the release of stress hormones that signal us to flee from the danger or threat. Instead of staying in a dangerous situation, this response causes us to literally or metaphorically run. Complex trauma can affect a person's ability to detect or respond to danger cues. So some assistive technology for health and safety includes making your home more accessible. So some of the lower tech things will be motion sensor lights on the steps or at the bedside. So for someone that is a night walker, they may need this the motion sensor lights at nighttime to just make sure that they are able to walk through the house safely. Different sensor alarms and alerts. So a Ring doorbell camera that is recording things and also alerting when someone's at the door. Those can just help with that feeling of security and safety. There are different smart plugs available. So if you, again, with memory, if you forget to turn off something like a flat iron, smart plugs are great because even when you're away, you can use an app to turn off a plug. Using bathwater thermometers. Those are great if you tend to have a high tolerance for pain or high tolerance for heat. So if something may not feel as hot to you as it may for your child, or it's great to have those thermometers where you're just in that safe zone and know. Using medicine reminders and pill organizers, also very helpful for memory. So trauma can also have a very lasting effects on your mental, physical, and emotional health. Experiencing abuse or other trauma puts people at risk of developing mental health conditions such as anxiety disorders, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and misusing alcohol or drugs, substance abuse, and also borderline personality disorder. So there are a lot of apps available for mental health. Our mental health apps that we have used, the mindfulness app, which is guided meditation. We have different breathing apps that some of our staff have used. Also apps that can help with focus and coping skills, and the PTSD coach is one of those apps as well. And I did want to take a moment to share the PSD coach really quick.
Kimberly says, I have OCD. Is this also a part of my anxiety disorder / PTSD?
What was the question? Was it a question or she was just telling me?
Yeah, I think she's asking, she has OCD. Is this also a part of her anxiety disorder / PTSD?
OCD and anxiety are definitely related, but it can be its own thing, or yeah, I would talk to your therapist about that, but they can definitely be related.
Yeah. So this is the PTSD coach. This is how it looks online, but it does look different in the app. But I do want to just show that this is available to help with like coping skills, and it walks you through different coping activities. So I am going to click on sleep problems and then relax your body. So it gives like a video just kind of giving an introduction on how relaxing your body helps and assists with PTSD. And then when you click begin, it will ask you your ask you to rate your current distress level. So if you were at a 6, and then the meter goes up to 6, if you just click that number. And then if you click next, it will show a video that gives you a relaxation exercise. And then after you finish the video and go through the exercise, you'll click next. And then it'll ask you to rate your distress level now. So if it goes down, it says, great, it looks like this tool brought down your distress level. Remember this tool, anything that works for you once can work for you again. If I were to say that it went up, it looks like you are more distressed after using this tool. Remember this for the future, since you shouldn't do things that don't work for you. So it just helps just kind of walk you through those coping and give you more things to add. That is available in the resource guide as well, the link to that. And then you can also download that to have available anytime.
I see Kimberly says I have to find a therapist. Kimberly, feel free to email, because there's some really great resources for therapy finders and who take different insurances, or folks with no insurance and sliding scales. So feel free to email. I'd be happy to share those resources and help you find the therapist.
And also other mental health devices that are available are wearable devices. Those can help with stress regulation and panic. They will assist with focus, attention, and staying on task, and self-regulation and coping skills. For someone that may have already tried out the biofeedback things and saying that it does not work for them, or even if you've always been curious about biofeedback, but you're not sure if it'll work for you. These are just a couple of different devices that are out there that are wearable. So the images on the screen are the Revibe watch. So that is a reminder watch. Again, it also is supposed to help with focus and staying on task. So it just kind of vibrates and gives you reminders on the watch. And then also Touch Points. That's a biofeedback where it tracks and monitors like your heart rate and stress levels, and then it vibrates to kind of remind you to calm and then to help regulate emotions as well. And the other device is a small boy that is breathing through the CalmyGo device, and that is a device to help with breathing in and out as well. So it's also common for those that have experienced trauma to isolate themselves. They may feel overwhelmed or unsafe in groups, quick to anger, feel misunderstood, or just uninterested in being around people. Pushing people away becomes a defense mechanism to keep people from being too close where they can feel hurt. So just some ways that you can build safe connections. So video calls using FaceTime. You can also video call through Facebook. There are also other apps that allow you to be able to do video calls using Zoom. Also the Alexa Echo device, the Echo Show. Those are also ways that you can do group family chats and group chats, group video calls. There's also Caribou, which is a virtual interactive connection app. And that is something where you can play games, do different activities virtually. So two people don't have to be next to each other. They can see the same screen during the video chat, and you can play matching games, color together, draw together, explore just different games that are on the app, and also read books. So just a more interactive call. Journaling together. So there are different journals. The mom and son journal is something that me and my son use. I write something in it, give it to him. He writes something back. So sometimes if he can't really find the words to say, it's easier for him to be able to write those down. And then I can read it back and we can kind of communicate that way. Or even sometimes, because I do have a younger child as well, sometimes if he's just not able to get my attention in the moment, it's easier for him to write it down, and then me and him can have that conversation later and it just doesn't go missed. And then just making sure that communication is accessible. So right now we do partner with an organization that assists with accessible communication and other AT for communication. And so that's something that we can connect you with if there are needs out there, if you have any need for communication AT. And using assistive technology in the IEP. So an IEP is an individualized education plan or program. This is a plan or program developed to ensure that a child with an identified disability who is attending an elementary or secondary educational institution receives the specialized instruction and related services. So all IEP teams are required to consider the need for AT. If AT is necessary, the district must provide the devices and/or services. We do also work with organizations that can help in that process and making sure that those needs are being met. The school is working to provide that AT. And then we're also trying to figure out those gaps with our program to where if you're waiting for the school to fund that AT, we can possibly step in and assist to get those devices. On the screen is a group of kids writing in school. So just some overview of different devices in the classroom, using calming corners, also using action corners. So corners that there are different, so calming corners more for those, the self-regulation and the sensory avoiders, and then action corners for your sensory seekers. So action corners would consist of different activities. So those tactile mats, having different activities available on the wall for them to do. That also helps with that sensory seeking. Again, having fidgets and different weighted lap pads also that are available at their desks. We have a lot of different AT for learning and development. So writing aids, technology devices, so tablets or iPads, and using those learning and thinking apps. And on the screen is an image of a calming corner and then a younger child using a lap pad at their desk, and then that tactile screen cover on an iPad. Also being mindful of using sensory seating. So we discussed kind of the wobble chairs and stools, using tactile seat cushions, the bouncy chair bands, and wiggle wobble chair feet. So those are all different things that we have available. But again, if someone is just having a hard time sitting still for long periods of time in the classroom, there are different devices out there available. So just a takeaway of our presentation is that our program is here to help. You can borrow the devices and try them out. We provide demonstrations, so we do walk you through how to use these devices. And we're here to help you figure out if this works for you before you make that investment. And we are a free, federally funded program. We are here for you to learn and create a space for more access to AT devices. So for those that you work with, family members, yourself, we are here to help. Resources are available in our resource guide. Sarah, if you want to put that in the chat again, just so it's available for
Yep,
everyone.
it's up there.
You say that therapy den that it says there, that is the #1 place that I send people to start looking for a therapist, but there's also Psychology Today, and there is a link to Therapy Den in the resource guide.
Kimberly says, you all are lifesavers. I love you all.
Thank you. So yeah, the resource guide is in the chat. Sarah just put that in there. And then we also have the adverse childhood experiences quiz. Amy, if you want to talk about that really quick.
Yeah, it is a good way of just kind of taking a look at the trauma that you may have experienced in childhood or that someone you care about has. And the higher your score, the more chances that you have negative impact from that trauma as you're an adult. And it can be scary to kind of get that score. My score was pretty high. It's important when you review that score, if you want to review that score, that you also take a look at the factors that increase resilience and the factors that you can support and think about the AT that we talked about today.
And then we also refer people to the Michigan AT Loan Fund. So though that program assists with providing resources and funding for the AT. Again, Therapy Den that Amy said she refers people to assist in finding a therapist. And then there's also PTSD and trauma support groups and forums that we have linked in the resource guide. So I just want to thank you.
Like as a result of COVID, that there's more resources online and more.
Yeah.
So even if your local community doesn't have things, there are ways to participate and get support in the disability community, even around the world. So
we want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today and for staying throughout the whole entire presentation. And for those that had to leave, thank you for attending. And we would like to encourage you to take our survey. If you would like a certificate for attending, you must complete that survey and let us know that you want that certificate to learn more about our program or to schedule a training for us to come out and talk to your staff or those that you work with, or for us to come out and do demonstrations with the group. Feel free to email us. Our general email is info, INFO, at mymdrc.org. Our phone number is 1-800-578-0280. And our website is mymdrc.org. If you would like to contact me or Amy, my name is Ajanay and my email is athomas@mymdrc.org. And Amy's email is Amy, AIMEE, at mymdrc.org.
Ajane, this is Kelly.
Oh, Sarah, can you
Hi.
put the survey in the chat?
Yep, Amy just did.
Oh, okay, thanks.
This is Kelly, and for those that are looking for CRC CEUs, please be certain to fill out that survey. And if you all could send me an email requesting that certificate, that would be appreciated.
And Kelly's email is KELLIE@mymdrc.org. Sarah, can you put that in the chat as well?
Yep.
Did
thanks.
anyone have any questions? A few minutes.
Kimberly just says, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for these wonderful informative Zoom webinars. Courtney says, thank you. This was so informative. And Anne says, this was fantastic. Thank you. Heather says, thank you. And Vanessa says, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you all for
Monica.
joining.
Kimberly.
We're looking forward to seeing you
Yeah.
tomorrow, Kimberly.
Take care, everyone.
Hi, everyone. And those that are on Facebook Live, we're going to stop.